Joining us now, Executive Vice President and General Manager Nick Caserio. Nick, good to see you.
Fellas, how we doing?
Doing well. Okay, so 0-2. Let's talk about Game 1 to Game 2 improvement. Improved in a lot of areas, but you didn't get the win. How do you see the big picture here, Nick?
Yeah, similar really both games. I'd say both of them came down to the last possession of the game. So some areas we improved, like you mentioned, didn't turn the ball over for the most part, took decent care of the ball. I mean, they dropped a couple interceptions, but in the end, like no turnovers. We got to do a better job on third down collectively as a team. Tackling certainly showed up in a game against Tampa as well. So if we can improve and subtly in some of those areas, the margins are small in this league. So it's just we got to get back to work and try to find ways to get better. I mean, we can't sit around and worry about what happened. Mm-hmm. What happened. So now we just got to focus on Jacksonville and try to play good, clean football.
Nick, before the game, I always ask you 3 different keys, and I asked you about special teams, and special teams last night showed up in a big way. Jalen with the number of returns he had, and then Jakob with the block punt to really keep the team in the game. What were your thoughts about what overall they did?
Sure, and we talked before the game. It was really going to come down to third down, explosive plays in the kicking game. We felt there was an opportunity for us to make a play in the kicking game. We made multiple plays, so kind of kept us in the game in some respects. Anytime you block a punt and return a ball, multiple explosive returns. Got close on a field goal block attempt. I mean, Will kind of went around it, and the ball ended up going kind of underneath him and hit the upright. So we made some plays in the kicking game. We felt that was an area that could potentially play to our advantage, and certainly a number of positives in that area. Like I said, we talked about third down, and I think just third down is going to be an important emphasis for Jacksonville. They're one of the better third down teams in the league. In the explosive plays. So had our moments where we were able to create some. We didn't give up too many, but they got a couple chunks. So, but that's what this league is about, and ultimately that's what games come down to.
Ed Ingram was back at guard, and that reconfigured the line again, Nick, and you drive down the field opening possession and put the ball in the end zone with the throw from CJ to Nico. After that, we had the field goal drive, but what happened to stall the offense until the fourth quarter where he scored some more points?
Yeah, I mean, credit to Tampa. They did some good things defensively. Probably could have handled some looks a little bit better than we did. But, we just got to be able to execute when it matters most. First 2 drives, like you mentioned, positive plays, and really we got a first down, first and goal, and then we got called back with a holding penalty. So penalties are a little bit of an issue collectively as a team, and it's just those plays are potentially going to impact winning in a negative way. And, coming to find out that was the case, the other night against Tampa.
Yeah, definitely. But offensively, you're seeing some things from young guys. Woody Marks comes in there, does some good things. Jaden Higgins has that big catch across the middle that makes a play. And obviously Jalen in the return game, which sparks the offense at that point. Are you seeing the things you want from some of your young guys? And obviously I didn't mention Ariante Ersuri, who played all game at left tackle.
Yeah, any player, just your job is to take advantage of your opportunities however they present themselves. And we had a number of players who have done that. We have good players. We feel like we have a good team. We haven't played good enough football to win, but that's the reality of the NFL. But those young players are here for a reason, and we feel as they continue to grow and evolve. And if you're productive, you're going to get more opportunities. So we'll see how it all comes to fruition here moving forward.
You mentioned third down on offense and 2 for 9, and I know you want to see that number be a lot better. What goes into that, being in third and short, or, hey, if we could convert a couple more of these, then we have 3 more carries or so, and that affects the running game. It affects everything.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the goal is to try to stay out of third and longer yardage situations, and a number of those third downs were longer yardage situations. It puts you in a little bit of a disadvantageous position. Mm-hmm. And Tampa has a pretty good blitz package. They were able to execute that at times where we were there, where we kind of had them accounted for and had them blocked, but they were still able to make a play. But third down is usually a product of first and second down, so all of it's tied together, both sides of the ball, really.
Nick, I always think about this. Go back with me. 2007, Michigan gets beat by Appalachian State. The next week, still kind of with a hangover from that, Oregon comes in. Oregon's a good football team, but Oregon beats Michigan because it felt like Michigan was still kind of lingering on that loss to Appalachian State. How do you make sure that this loss last on Monday night doesn't linger into the week against Jacksonville?
Yeah, it's just the reality of the NFL. I mean, it takes a certain level of discipline and mental toughness. So you can't let what happened the previous week impact what's going to happen the following week. We understand the challenges that are in front of us. So Jacksonville is a good football team. Let's talk about here in a minute. They've certainly improved. So that's part of your job is to take inventory of what happened in the game, put that to bed, and then get ready for the next opponent, which in this case is Jacksonville. So it's going to take a collective effort. We're confident in the people that we have in the building, but it's going to take a certain level of discipline, commitment, and mental toughness, because that's what this league is about.
Let's talk more about the passing game here, because Nico Collins made some big plays for you. I know that you're lacking in the tight end department, but you elevated Harrison Bryant. Dalton Schultz made some big plays. What do you see overall there, Nick? And John talked about the rookies, getting them more involved. Easier said than done sometimes, but they are contributing.
Yeah, everybody that's on the field making contributions to some capacity. I'm on offensively only had 46, 47 plays, so really weren't on the field for that many plays. So however many plays that you're allotted, go out there. Do you execute your assignment? Do you know your assignment, number one? Number two, can you go out there and execute it? And can you make a play when your number is called? And there are multiple examples of that, and there was multiple examples week one. So we just got to kind of continue to build on those things and figure out what are some of the things that we're doing well and try to accentuate those as we move forward.
Yeah, speaking of Harrison Bryant, Harrison had a really nice block and a touchdown run for Nick. He and Titus did a nice job there. Okay, put the Bucs in the rearview mirror. Thank God, get that game out. Think everybody, nice little gut punch. Didn't feel so good about it. But let's move forward to the Jags in Jacksonville. A lot of the same names, but a new head coach, kind of a new vision, new everything, Nick. Let's go to the scouting report on the Jags.
Yeah, they've been very strategic about how they build a team. To your point, there's some carryover from previous years, but then I'd say there's new, leadership with James and Liam kind of come in and put their imprint on the team. Hired Anthony Campanelli on the defensive side of the ball, who's a very well-respected coach. And then Grant Udinski is the offensive coordinator. Liam calls the plays, but they kind of work in unison. And Heath Farwell is a carryover from the previous staff, is one of the better special teams coaches in the league. So it's kind of a blend of some new faces and new philosophies with some existing players. But good football team, they've played really well. The one thing that they've done, they've taken the ball away from, especially defensively, they've taken the ball away. I think they have 6 or 7 turnovers over the first 2 games. They've almost eclipsed their total from last season.
Wow.
Starting at the defensive side of the ball, really strong, I would say formidable front, really good edge players, Trayvon and Hines Allen. Hines Allen's one of the best defensive players in the league, consistently causes problems for the opponent. Big inside with Hamilton and Armstead. They made a trade there at the end of the training camp, acquiring Saunders. And then they signed Gardeck in free agency, who's kind of giving them some good plays, kind of a hybrid defensive end or outside linebacker, good kicking game player. And then another strategic signing, I would say Jordan Lewis, who they kind of earmarked to be the nickel, has been a really good player inside the formation. Tyson Campbell has been a kind of a mainstay there on the perimeter, and they're kind of rotating opposite him with Jarrion Jones, and they've given Hunter some snaps on the perimeter, a corner. And Eric Murray's done a really good job for them in the first 2 games, so he's kind of solidified that safety position, him and Wingard. So they do a good job defensively, create a lot of problems for the offense. And offensively, Liam's done a good job, I would say, of kind of putting his imprint on a system. Trevor's playing really good football. They have really good skill. They have explosive skill. They're fast. Brian Thomas, De'Ami Brown, who they signed free agency. Travis, when he's on the offensive side of the ball, he's fast. The 2 running backs, Tooten's fast, Etienne's fast. And Strange has kind of emerged as the lead tight end. They made a number of changes on the offensive line. Looks like those players have worked out. And then the kicking game, probably 3 of the best specialists combined between the kicker, Little, Matisik, the long snapper, and then their punter. So they do a good job. It's a good football team. They're 1-1. Honestly, they probably should have beat Cincinnati the other day. Kind of came down to the end of the game, the last play, where Cincinnati converted the sneak, and that would end up being the difference in the game. So certainly a challenge playing on the road in a division against a good football team who's certainly improved. So we're going to have to make sure we're ready to go.
Etienne, I don't know whether to call it a renaissance or he's finally coming into his own. How would you describe it? Because he's making
he's always been a good player. Early on, it was kind of injuries, and he's healthy, and he's fast, and he's explosive. And they've given him a number of opportunities. He was their leading rusher week 1. He had some chunk runs, very explosive when he hits a hole. Tooten is very similar in that respect. The guy who came out in the draft this past year. He's fast. Really fast. I think they felt good about Tooten and Allen, who they drafted, and they were able to move on from Bigsby. But Etienne certainly creates a lot of problems. If there's a crease, he can hit the home run at any point.
What are you seeing, Nick, and how they're using Travis? Because I know there's so much talk about what Travis was going to do. He's going to play both ways. He's going to be this transcendent. How are they using Travis on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, they're kind of I'd say this past week against Cincinnati, he was a little more balanced defensively and offensively. It looks like, and defensively, he's playing on the perimeter a little bit more than situational. It's kind of like, we'll call it the third corner. Then offensively, the third to fourth receiver, depending on however they're deploying them. Yep. But he's athletic, very athletic. I mean, he has very good hand-eye coordination, runs well, has good quickness. He's a smart kid. He's a really good kid, coming out. Yep. So they've done a good job, and he's a big part of what they're doing, both now and in the future.
What's the early review on Trevor Lawrence and the effect that Liam Cohn and his staff are having on the quarterback?
Yeah, Liam's done a good job historically over his career with quarterbacks. And we saw Baker the other night. I mean, Baker had a career year last year, with Liam. And Trevor's off to a good start. So doing a pretty good job taking care of the ball. I mean, I think he threw one or two the other day. But for the most part, he's making good decisions. It's a quarterback-friendly system that they employ. So between him and Grant, they're doing a good job of putting him in a position to succeed.
You used the word fast a few times as you were, Diami Brown, he's fast. And Travis Hunter, he's fast. And Tooten ran like a 4.32 at the combine. It felt like that was their MO. Like, we're going out and we're getting speed. We're going to be as fast on offense as we could possibly be. How do you see that kind of manifest itself in the way they play?
Yeah, it shows up on the tape. Shows up on the tape defensively as well. I mean, Eric runs well. Eric's fast. I mean, Travis is fast. I mean, Jordan Lewis, is fast. Yeah. So I think the overall athleticism, they made a concentrated effort, it appears, to incorporate more athleticism and speed to kind of complement some of the bigger players on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. And they're seeing the fruits of their labor, so to speak.
Yeah.
Nick, talking about the Texans offense, and you talked about some things that need improvement, some things that looked good against Tampa Bay and even against the Rams. How important is patience? I know you want to win, but also we're looking at a work in progress in many ways because it is a new system, and you open against two very tough teams. Can you speak to that a little bit, the process of developing this offense?
Yeah, early part of the season, you're trying to figure out really what does your team look like? What do you have? What do you have schematically? What do you have personnel-wise? There's certain things we're going to do more of, maybe a little bit more of this, a little bit less of that. And a lot of that is a feel and getting a sense for, what the players are comfortable doing and what they're good at. So it takes work. I mean, there's no other way around it. I mean, there's no magical formula that is required other than to go out there and do it, and to execute and to get some positive reinforcement. If there's something that needs to get fixed, try to work to get it fixed. That's really what this league is about, and it's not going to change whether it's week 3 or week 18.
Nick, what's the crossover between Grizzard and what he's doing with the Bucs and what Liam's doing with the Jags? Because Grizzard steps in for Cohen with the Bucs. Did it help at all to face the Bucs to give you kind of a little bit of a preview for the Jags at all?
Yeah, you have to be careful because sometimes just because somebody's worked together or been in the same system it's automatically cut and paste. It typically isn't. Some of the things that Tampa Bay is doing are different than what they did last year. Right. Same thing with Jacksonville. Some of the things that they're doing are different than what Tampa is doing. Right. Maybe there's a baseline sort of foundation that's in place, but it ultimately comes back to the players. How are they using those players? Right. Where are they putting them? Because not every team has the same players. So there's some crossover, some elements, but it's not a basic cut and paste.
Yeah. Nick, talking about players around the league, and no matter the team, no matter the player, developing that player, how much of it is on coaching versus the individual themselves and what they need to do and figure out for themselves? I know it's got to be a marriage of sorts, but how do you gauge that?
No, it's a great question, Mark. It's a combination of everything. It's their players' willingness to absorb the information, to take coaching, and to be able to apply it. Everybody has different mechanisms with which they learn, in which some players would rather go out there and do it physically, whether it's a walkthrough or in practice, as opposed to learning it in a classroom on a piece of paper. And from a coaching perspective, a lot of this is psychology and philosophy of what do we need to do to help the players? How do we reach them? So it takes a lot of communication and it takes a lot of work. And it's probably not going to happen overnight. It normally doesn't. That's not the case. But we have a number of players that have the right attitude, have the right mindset. And ultimately, it's going to come down to you doing your individual job as best you can on a play-to-play basis.
So on a Sunday, with a Monday game on a Sunday, are you red zone guy? Are you locked into next opponent? Are you whatever's on TV just popped on? How do you handle Sunday from your perspective?
Yeah, really, it was kind of working on sort of the next opponent, not so much. You're aware of maybe what's going on in the league, but maybe you're focused on the next few teams that you're going to play. So whether it's Jacksonville to Tennessee to Baltimore, and it's really off the exos of the video. if the TV was on, especially on a Sunday, if there's a golf tournament that's on, I'm probably going to be watching it because sometimes you need a little bit of a distraction. I'm not a big RedZone guy, so I know that probably
does it drive you crazy?
It disappoints a lot of people, but it's not my cup of tea.
No, this has become a very contentious point about people watching games. I wouldn't imagine you're going to watch RedZone, especially, Jags coming up, probably watching that game, maybe, tune into that. But there are some people that, they have to, I have to have RedZone on Sunday.
I could maybe tell you the number of times on less than one hand, and I've watched RedZone. So
you're probably thinking, I'm going to wait for the all 22 on the game that I need to watch.
I know we're going to get the video. You're going to watch it. Right. So keep the focus there.
Does it drive you kind of crazy? Because I know it drives him crazy, Johnny, about watching a game on TV in general because you don't see the whole development of a play downfield, what's going on with the receivers while the quarterback's
I'd say if you're watching an upcoming opponent, there is some merit to watching the television version of it, but you do kind of lose sight of kind of the big picture. It's kind of you start close and then it pans out to a certain point. But there might be some other things that you could pick up. And we talked about this on a few shows ago, talking about college and watching games live versus watching them on TV and then go back and scouting. So wherever you can gain information from, however you do it, there's merit to it. You just got to be careful of putting too much stock in one thing versus the other.
Getting out, seeing college games. I know you've been doing that. That's obviously, it feels like something that you like to do as well, to be able to see a game up close and see guys up close, whether it's a game, whether we're on the road, just seeing a game up close and just kind of getting a read on early read on guys. How's that going for you?
Yeah, for sure. It's really top to bottom. It's not just these certain players. There's certain graded level of players. I mean, it's anybody from, call it 64, 65 down to 57 or 58. Those players that might be late to more free agents. So just having a big picture understanding of as many players as possible, understanding that they're going to be relevant, with the University of Houston, who, they've done a good job and they're off to a good start. They're going to have some players who are going to factor in, and there's going to be some of those players that, quite frankly, we're going to have in the building in the spring for local day. So it's just kind of taking inventory of what's out there, what's going on, who's playing, how are they playing. It's really more of a big picture sense as opposed to getting so focused and caught up on one particular player or one particular play.
I know that we have a bye week coming up. And I don't even know if this is allowed. I know professionals, scouts from other teams are up in the press box for games. But if you wanted to go see, Seattle, because that'll be our opponent after could you go to that game? Could you scout that live?
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd want to, but could you do that? Is that allowed?
No, through the advanced scouting process, that's really the only way that you can do it. There's some other mechanisms that a lot of colleges have tried. Sure. They've been penalized accordingly for that. So,
but could you go, I don't know who Seattle's playing the week before they play us.
I don't either.
But could you go watch that game?
There's certain rules and parameters in place that we have to comply with. So it's not something that's going to be on my dance card.
That figured. All right.
Nick, at practice this time of year, we see you during training camp, and that's ones against ones and a lot of action and padded practices and things like that. How is it for you? What are you observing this time of year? Full game week mode, a lot of look team against the first teamers on each side of the ball. How do you approach it?
Yeah, you're just watching that respective side of the ball who is live and just looking at the play and the execution and, again, kind of a big picture. You guys see me back there standing. It's really more just to kind of see everything that's going on. And it's not necessarily that you're watching one particular player or just watching. Part of this is just education from a schematic standpoint. Okay, hey, this player is supposed to be here on this play, and if he's doing the right thing, great. And then you go back and watch a practice film. This way, when you're having discourse or dialogue with the coaching staff, you can kind of talk in an educated fashion. So it's kind of stay back there, kind of stay out of the way, but watch the live sort of side of the ball as it's happening.
When you go back and you watch practice film, Nick, what is it that you focus on? You look at everything. Do you look at individuals? I know you guys film everything. Do you look at individual? You look at 7-on-7. What is it you kind of focus on when you watch the practice?
Mostly the team is 7-on-7, and then some of the individual drills. If maybe a player's coming back from something, watch what he's doing at an individual drill, how he's moving. So it all depends, but most of the team stuff, offense, defense, and special teams, kind of go through all three phases and just kind of, hey, what happened in practice? How'd it go? What are some things that we can clean up or improve, and then just move on to the next day.
All right, we were talking about things you watch, and we'll wrap it up with this because I've been in your office, and you have one of the financial channels on. So is it going to be CNBC, Bloomberg, Fox Business
CNBC,
News?
Hands
CNBC?
down, not close. Yeah.
That's the one.
For sure.
Okay.
1,000%.
Just a lot of information up there.
And I have the volume down, so it's not necessarily listening to what they're saying. But if there's a guest or maybe there's a CEO or some leader that's on or an analyst who you follow that might have some insight. And there's certain folks, just like anything, you like to listen to certain people for information. And that guy's pretty smart. That woman's pretty smart. Oh, that's pretty good insight. Oh, maybe there's an idea there that causes some generation, whether it's an individual application in your portfolio or just a big picture leadership trend or something else. So try to stay away from the chaos and some of the newsy items. I love the markets. I just enjoy following them on a day-to-day basis. So part of it is educating myself and just staying informed. And sometimes it's a good release or an outlet from like the RedZone channel.
New segment next week, Nick's picks for stocks.
I have plenty of those.
Hey,
sure.
when's the last time we had CNBC on our TV?
Never. I think I did it just to make sure we
CNBC?
had it because I wanted to check if Nick was going to be able to get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Nick, thanks a lot. Good luck this week.
Thanks, fellas.